Project Torrim is nearing release, and whilst I have low expectations, I don't want it to be a complete debacle. As such, there are 3 key elements I want to address before I release the game. These are the feasibility of mobile, the game's performance, and looking at the game's identity. Getting these 3 elements right should make the game seem unique, increase its accessibility, and run smoothly. Once these are done, the game should be in a much better state, and I'll be happy to release. When exactly will this be? Well, as I begin this devlog, I'm not too sure, but I hope when I come to the end of the devlog I'll be able to discuss that. How's it going everybody, I'm Lewis, also known as Skeffels, and welcome to the 39th devlog for Project Torrim, my Iron Age fantasy tower defense game. Last week I showed some recent development highlights, including a variety of small features and a major game rebalance. This got the game into a great state, and I received a lot of positive feedback and comments on the progress. In this devlog I originally planned to work on performance issues, however I have reprioritised checking the feasibility of mobile since it's the task I know the least about, and getting it done will mean less surprises down the line. If I can get the game out on mobile, it'll be great since it'll be accessible to more players and allow me to test on lower spec devices later on when it comes to work on performance. This is all very exciting, so I'll check back in when I've made some progress. It's been a couple of days and I think an Android build will be feasible. Last time I really did anything with Android was way back in Devlog 6, but the game has moved on significantly since then. In particular, levels and game profiles load from files, which behave differently on Android. For example, on PC I put the level file in the content folder and make sure it's copied when it's built. However, on Android it needs to go into the assets folder, and once in the assets folder it uses an asset manager to open itself rather than the file system. Similarly, with game profile locations, I couldn't just read or write to the local folder, so now game profiles are saved to the application data folder. With the game now built on Android, there are a number of issues I need to address. Some small, such as there's a double splash screen, one from the app and one from the game itself, but others are bigger, such as the game resolution needs to be able to scale to smaller screens, and sometimes you get dead clicks when you tap. I still have plenty of time this week, so I'll catch up when I have more to share. It's been a few days since I last checked in, but honestly it feels like a week. I've managed to get about 2.5 issues sorted, so let's take a look at them. The first issue I addressed was screen resolution. This was an issue my dad encountered with my Ludum Dare 47 game Base Defender. I'm not entirely sure what went on since social distancing made it awkward for him to show me, but from what I understand, the game resolution did not fit his phone screen. This meant he couldn't press the buttons to move, and therefore couldn't play the game. This took some time to fix. I originally tried adding some rescaling code when the window resized, however I kept getting it wrong. Eventually I sort of got it working with a code split for resizing UI elements versus rescaling the world view, however I wasn't satisfied with that solution. The code was bad, and I wanted to scale the UI as well. Whilst working on this I realised my camera code had gotten all tangled up and was not maintainable. As such I planned out and rewrote all the camera code, which is easier to understand now. With that complete, the game now scales and resizes how I expected, and it only really looks odd when you make the window super tall, which I wouldn't think was very practical. Before I moved on to the next issue, I actually celebrated my birthday. It's not much in lockdown, but I did get a few gifts, cards and balloons from close family, and my mum even baked me a Lego cake, which was quickly decapitated in the name of tastiness. It was a fun day and a much needed break from work and game dev. When I got back to game dev, I worked on a screen dragging issue. This was something that semi-worked on mobile, however, every so often the camera completely ignored your drag. This was another confusing bug, but eventually I found out it was because the touch input is more than just pressed and released. There's also a moved state, and the camera was completely ignoring that. Once I added moved, the camera worked pretty much exactly how I wanted. This brings us to the final issue I looked at this week, but was unfortunately unable to resolve. The issue is with dead clicks when tapping buttons on the screen. Similar to the screen dragging issue, tapping a button would sometimes be completely ignored. I suspect this is due to how I'm dealing with mobile input. Essentially, I first move the cursor to the touch location, look for collision with the cursor, and then a touch event. I did this because it's very similar to mouse input, but I think I'll have to rewrite this next week, as touch and mouse input are actually quite different. This almost brings this week to an end, but before I discuss my plans for release, I want to announce that from now until the end of March, I'll be streaming on Twitch for a couple of hours after each devlog airs. So that's Sunday 2:15 to 4:15 GMT at twitch.tv/Skeffels. There is a link in the video description. This week I'll be playing Prison Architect, which I've not played before, but looks great and I suspect will be a strong influence on my next game project. But before I get too far ahead of myself, let's go over the plans to release Project Torrim. Like I mentioned at the start of the devlog, there are 3 key stages I want to address before release. First, mobile, which I've made great progress on this week, and will continue on next. Second, game performance, which I have a plan for, and hope will take about 2 weeks. And finally, the game's identity, which is a collection of smaller changes that should be fairly quick to sort out over a week or 2. All in all, if there aren't any major bumps in the road, I hope to get the game released by the end of March, which really isn't that far away. To make sure you don't miss a beat on any updates to the game, subscribe to my channel now. I'm super excited about all the recent progress with the game. The game has taken a lot longer to develop than I originally thought, however the game has evolved so much beyond its original design, it feels well worth the time. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Do you think this is a realistic release plan? Are there any last minute changes you think I should make? Are you going to play on PC or Android? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed watching this devlog for Project Torrim. Leave the video a like to let me know you did. I really appreciate everyone that does this. Thank you and I'll see you next time.